Welcome, everybody. My name is Adam Moore. I'm with the city of Milwaukee. Please excuse the technical difficulties. We're doing this on Zoom as well. So hi to everybody in Zoom land. Like I said, I'm the project manager from the city of Milwaukee. With me is Jennifer from our architecture firm, Greenworks. And we are here to talk about Scott Park. So we're going to go through a presentation on the park. We're going to do questions and answers. We may have a presentation from a member of our city council as well later on. And then we will break and fill out surveys. If you're watching us on Zoom, we will do the presentation and question and answers on Zoom. And then we'll ask you to please go on to Engage Milwaukee to fill out the survey. We will share the link in the chat.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer DeBanzo. I'm with Greenworks. We're the landscape architecture firm on the project. And then I'll also introduce JLA, who is our public involvement team, and ESO, and then my coworker, Yao Yu. Some of you might have been here 2 months ago, but just quickly I'll go over the agenda. And hi, Zoom land. We've got our project schedule we're going to go through, all the feedback that came back to us from August. We look at the revised concepts from the feedback, and then the next steps after would be questions and our discussion, the survey, and then another presentation. Next. Here is our project schedule, and this little symbol is where we're at today. This project is grant funded through COVID dollars. So can you not hear me?
I hear some words.
Okay. This project is funded through COVID dollars. And because of that, we are on a pretty fast schedule. So this project is also pretty heavily weighted in community engagement and equity and inclusion. So with that, we have about a year of engagement with everybody to get feedback. And then we'll have a year of where we're going through the design process and putting together construction documents. At the end of this year, there will be an approval. So in December, I'm getting my schedule all backwards. So let me just start.
Do you want me to? So here tonight, we are at the start of our final engagement period. We have surveys online for all 3 parks. Those surveys will end on the 19th. After that, we will have a presentation of the park plans on Zoom at a special park meeting on November 16th. We will then go to City Council on December 6th and ask for approval of these plans. We'll then go through a year of design and permitting. We hope to break ground in January of 2024, and we've got to cut the ribbons in October 2024. This is COVID dollars. They are use it or lose it money, and we plan on using all of it. We started our presentation, and you can go on after us. Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. Next. So this is this is our survey feedback from August 2 months ago. And we brought to the community 2 concepts, which look very much like our concepts today. And as you can see, there was a 51 to 49 preference. So it was very, very close. And concept 1 has this entry plaza, which is more of a pergola entrance. And concept 2 has more of a play forward entrance. There were 97 online responses and 32 written surveys. So we had really good feedback. Next. I'll go over some of the bigger, some of the questions that came out. So favorite elements of concept 1, which was the more of the pergola up front. So native plantings, number 1, it always comes back. And then the rock steppers, the overlook deck, and the pergola. So those were the 4 favorite elements of concept 1. And then for concept 2 was the pond platform, which is very similar to the overlook deck. The stage, because they'll be looking at doing a reconstruction of the stage so that it's ADA accessible, native plantings, and the playground. Next. So some of the themes that we're hearing and that you just witnessed was nature. Everybody wants nature. Nature, and they want to keep the trees that are there. They want, like we're hearing nature play instead of a structure play. We're also hearing inclusion, so ADA accessible, a community, and community is like we've added more benches and more picnic areas, and then a library connection. So we have the connection through the door here, but then can we have more of a connection as like story in the park or signs around the garden? And the biggest challenge that we're hearing is parking. So this is concept one revisioned from the last time. So as we talked about, we have these COVID dollars, and with looking at the funds that we have for the project, and then also looking at ways that how can we preserve existing features that are here. That includes also preserving the embodied carbon that's in the existing concrete out here. So we're not removing all that. We created this first, well, redesigned this first concept. And the other big thing that we're hearing and that we've changed from last time is an accessible route. So, yeah. See. So this trail here is the existing trail that's out there today. And then with this concept, we have this ADA accessible route. So currently today there's steps here. So somebody that was in a wheelchair would just get stuck today in the existing park at the top of the steps, and they couldn't continue on. So this concept can shows an existing route that goes to the stage, but then also this turnoff that comes into the plaza area. Also within this area, we still are retaining the pergola. This concept has a soft surface trail that would be activating the space in the back with some log play, or if people just want to sit on a log and have a quiet area in the back, then that's what this area is. And then as benches, picnic tables, this deck view, a deck to like view out to the pond area. And then down here at the stage, as I mentioned earlier, is right now the stage tilts back towards the water. So it's looking at bringing that stage at a level so that it's not tilting back and it's accessible. Memorial stays the way it is right now. So anything else?
The rock steppers and
Yeah.
the dogwood tree.
Yeah, so we've got these rock steppers. They'll go, there's elevation changes there. So it's a good way to add in some rock steppers. And as we're like looking at budgeting, we could potentially add some more rock steppers in these areas. And then currently there is a dogwood tree that's under the cedar tree in the back, and that was dedicated to Rosalie Denny. And the Denny's donated the park space. So instead of removing that tree or replanting that tree, there's going to be a tree that's replanted, and then the plaque that's out by that tree will get moved to this new tree location. Next. So this is concept number 2. You'll see a lot of the same image, but we're leaving the existing trail. With this one, we have a different decking feature. Still, we're making our way down to the stage with an ADA accessible trail, and then back to the plaza, but this time there's a play space. So this is a play area for kids, and then there's benches and seating for adults to watch the kiddos or caretakers. Same, we have the rock steppers in this one, as well as the tree. All around in both concepts, there's native plantings to enhance this natural feel. There's already native plantings out there, but it's like some of it's a little weedy, some of it's more weedy grass. So it's how do we get some of our native plantings in here that is easier to maintain and keep that natural native feeling. Let's see. One thing in this one is we are asking people if they would want to see any improvements for the memorial, for the Veterans Memorial. So that'll be on your surveys. And let's see. During the design process, also, we're trying to look at how to work with the ADA accessible spot closer to the entrance of the park. There's already ADA accessible spot into the library too, yeah. And then if we can add one down on the end, so it's closer to the park itself. Yes,
Got it.
you're gonna,
No, I think you got it.
okay, right on.
Next.
Yes, please. So for the survey, so this is online and written survey, we're asking everybody to rank the features. So we have 10 features that we're asking people to rank of what's your favorite. So there's two concepts. We're not saying you have to have concept one or concept two. There might be something in concept two that you really want in concept one. I don't know if there'll be a play feature and a pergola based on our budgeting, but we're gonna look at what all the features come in and then rank those and work within our budget to come up with a final design.
Can I just say something about the budget right now?
Yeah.
So right now we are on budget. So like if we just had one concept, we could put everything in concept one probably in the park. We could also probably do the same thing with concept two. We can't do both. So what we're asking for is which concept overall do you like the best? And then out of those concepts, which of these 10 features are your favorite? And then these other concepts that Jennifer will walk you through, we know that those are definitely going to be in the park.
Yeah, so these elements here, we didn't ask for people to rank these because they're going to be in the park. So it's walking trails, open lawn, benches and picnic tables, native plantings, bike rack, trespass. Because I think right now there's no picnic tables, and we were hearing we want picnic tables, and then the same with the walking trails and having an ADA accessible loop. So those are things that will definitely be in the park. So we really need your input and feedback, whether it's tonight or online. And as Adam mentioned, those surveys will be open until the 19th of October. And then for us, the design team will go back, we'll synthesize that, and then there'll be that meeting that Adam mentioned on November 19th, 16th with TAR, that will be open to the public. So you could see what the final designs are. They will also be on the website as well.
I do just want to mention one thing about the budget. So we are keeping an eye on inflation. We know that things are very challenging. We do have room in this budget for prices to change. But, you know, things are very difficult out there right now. So that is part of the reason why we are asking you to rank these because, you know, these are just conceptual. We're just blocking out areas. So exactly what type of playground we're going to have, how wide the path is, those sorts of things. Those are all going to get worked out in design, and we're going to have to price check everything as we go along the way. So we are trying to be as careful as we can with what we show you today in terms of budgeting. But if you've gone to the grocery store recently or the gas station, you know things are changing very quickly. We're doing our best to keep our eye on that.
Next. Oh.
We have a blank screen.
That is what happened. Yeah.
Weird. Okay, that's all right.
What is it?
It's just their next steps.
Okay.
So next steps here today is food. Some of you are already eating. Great. Okay. And then, oh, there it is. Great. And then this discussion. So we're going to open it up to questions. We've got people online that can ask questions to the chat, and then everybody that's here. Then we'll close the Zoom, but for everybody to do their surveys. So we can do them here together, and then Zoom, you can do them all online. And then, so the next 2 weeks, as I mentioned, that survey will be open. The special PARB meeting to look at the designs on November 16th. And then December 6th would be city council approval of the plans. Those are our next steps, timeline. So I'll open it up. Do you have something? I'll open it up to any questions that you might have.
Yes.
So is it the playground's only an option 2? Is that right?
It can be in any option. It's just how are you ranking it?
But in terms of the design, it looks like one included the playground and one did not.
Correct. So it's just based on, so the next option, the next plan is the final plan.
Yeah.
So if you like option 1, but you don't want the pergola and you want the playground in it, then you would rank, the playground higher than the pergola.
Okay, so even if option 1 wins, it doesn't mean there won't necessarily be a playground.
Right.
So first I'm going to repeat the question. So the question was, is there a playground in both options? And what you're seeing is.
It was.
There's like 3 questions in there.
Oh, good. I think your question is.
How do we get a playground?
Yeah, we there was the kid lobbying for sure.
So there are play features in both designs.
Get back to concept.
Concept 1 has the play logs and the rock steppers and more natural based play around the path. Whereas option 2, concept 2 has more of a traditional contained structure based play as the focus point of the park. So 2 different ways to think about play, but we're only calling what's in option 2 a playground. I think that was one of your questions. What was the other one? Or were there other
And that
ones?
answered a lot.
Okay.
So when you say logs or Rick and logs, those are in context to the play adjacent logs.
Mhm.
Should be formal language.
And you will see when we break, we can take a closer look at this, but we have, landscape logs here. This is a concept that is popular in a lot of parks. So the Boardman Wetland Park that NCPRD just opened up. A lot of people are familiar with Westmoreland Park. That has a ton of logs, which are extremely expensive. We are talking about a few logs. But that's kind of where the idea from is. There's a few other parks that utilize this as well.
They might not be in here. Sorry.
They're not in there.
Yeah, sorry. We didn't, do you have the concepts online? The pictures?
Yep.
Okay, so for people that are on Zoom, you will see this concept picture board posted. Sorry, we don't have every picture on the board or on the Zoom.
Yep, the online survey does have pictures of everything.
And I just put.
Thank you. Does that answer your questions about?
It does. Thank you so much.
Just checking.
Thank you.
Any other questions? There's got to be a lot of questions. Yeah, Teresa.
On the back side, I see the boundary on the north side. I know there's development over there, but there might be some sort of buffer like trees or maybe you don't need to know about that.
So the question right now is are we planning on a buffer between the adjacent properties, particularly to the north where the old bowling alley is being turned into apartments? And we do have native plantings going along the fence line there. We haven't shown this detail in the concept, but we are planning for a new fence and we will look at screening plantings. The first step with the plantings is to remove the invasive species and see what we have left and then work our way from there. Did that answer?
On the back side though, the property that's not part of the park.
Will they?
They'll have their own development standards for landscaping.
They have their own standards. I am not familiar with that property right now. Gary, did you have a question?
Question is the outlet for the creek is right on the northwest side. Is that in the park or outside of the park?
So the 2 ponds are actually a creek, Spring Creek. It is underground in a pipe
Yes.
coming into the park. And then the pond continues off of city property and goes into a pipe underneath the pizza place and that property. And then eventually it's daylit again. The inlet into the pipe is not on city property.
The outlet, okay, yeah, the inlet, you're right,
Mhm.
it's not city property. Thank
That
you.
is not city property, no.
Okay, good.
But all of the regulations that go along with wetlands and moving water apply, whether it's on city property or not. Yes, sir.
The fence on the west side that separates the park from the parking lot,
Mhm.
will that have a gate in it or still be used for access?
So that is something that we are looking into. We are working on identifying the property owner and having discussions with them. So what you're talking about is the old Nautilus property. The question was, are we going to put a gate in there? Are we going to replace the fence? Our hope is that we will be able to work out some form of easement and gain access there. However, if there is access there, that means that people might park there. And so it is a challenging kind of negotiation that we would need to work out. But my understanding is our community development director has been at least in touch with the owner there. In an ideal world, we would have connection to the adjacent properties to the north and the west and brand new attractive fences. We might only get attractive fences, but we still have some time to figure that out.
Is there consideration for like a bridge to the new development over the water?
So my understanding is that when the old bowling alley, when that was planned to be a new housing development, they did look into a boardwalk and that was removed out of the plan. Reasons being, I'm not sure, I wasn't at the city at the time. That would be very cool, also very expensive. Another thing is, and part of the reason, if you were here with us in August, we were talking about the causeway area here. Right now, there's that really steep, bumpy asphalt that's kind of falling apart and has like a 4-foot drop off that would definitely take a 4-year-old with it. We would love to make that a boardwalk and a viewing platform. But between the cost of investigation and the permitting, Jennifer does have a background in this. That's one of the reasons why we brought her in. It does not fit into the budget of this project. We could either build out one of the two options that you see in front of you, or we could address that causeway. That's how expensive that would be. So right now we are proposing a fence and a gate, and any work on that causeway area would have to happen some other time. And that's why in these designs, you see in the corner of both of them, either like a pond platform or a viewing area there. Our hope is that by taking out the invasive species, we're able to clear a path there. We know that everyone, especially the kids, like to look at those ducks. We heard all about those in the survey. It's one of my favorite spots, but making it safe is very important. And in this project, we're not able to do that. So we're looking at other options. I know that was probably more than you were asking, but yes, Allie.
So we've talked about inclusivity, and I've heard how there's going to be a lot of inclusivity for ADA regulations, but in terms of people and children who are neurodivergent, has there been any sort of plan to put in like a sensory garden, or is there a space with with kids who may need like some quiet space? Is there a space or anything like that for them? Or
Yeah, I think like as we start delving deeper into design and stuff, like there are these pockets around that we could make a sensory garden. There's also like the story in the park signs, but they could easily be interpretive signs. And in the other option, we show that, back area that could be something that's quiet. These tables, picnic tables and stuff are away from like if this was,
Our cat toys is no longer working.
but the play area, if that's like too loud and overstimulating, to get away from it would be like at the picnic tables or benches, and then also away. So I think option one has more of that like trail around the back trees with the logs and stuff. But we did talk about like if there's fee in the budget, how can we add in more sensory play, like some of those musical instruments or stuff that are like at that level, ground level?
I did speak with a child out at the sign-in table who was concerned about, she does have a hidey hole in a bush in the park currently, and that's where she hangs out, and she's like, is my bush going to be saved? So, yeah.
So cute.
So,
City council, right?
were there any questions on Zoom? No questions on
No
Zoom?
questions on Zoom.
Any other questions in the audience here? Okay, going once, going twice.
Just real quick.
Yes.
Are you working with the Friends of the Milwaukie Library?
Yeah, so we are working with a lot of people on this project, specifically with Scott Park. We have been talking a lot with library staff about how they utilize the park. If you joined us in May when we did the big open house, part of the reason why we did that open house was to see how the park looks when it's activated. That's why we had like a storyteller and a clown there, is because we wanted to see what the park looked like with a bunch of people in the amphitheater. We've been talking with the Friends of the Letting Library. We've been talking with the Letting Library Foundation as well on some elements with them and staying in contact. So we do monthly updates at our Parks and Rec board on this project. And we had invited members from other boards, including the library board, to join us at those monthly meetings. And we have a representative from that board there. And so we are in contact with a lot of different groups throughout the city and for this park in particular.
Okay, because I envision that somewhere along the way, the Friends will probably donate money for a, I don't know, bench or something.
We've had some conversations and we would love to have conversations about that. Did you have a question or comment?
I was just wondering if you've been talking to the Legion about the Veterans Memorial.
Yeah, so we do, there is a partnership, the Vietnam Veterans Partnership that works on a memorial. I have met with them with the city recorder, Scott Stauffer, twice. We have representatives from each of the groups that make up the partnership that we've been talking with. And that is why you see on the survey improvements to the memorial. One of the big questions early on in this project was, can we find a way to make the stage and the rest of the park accessible without moving the memorial? And we've worked very hard to do that. The next step is looking at, does the memorial stay as it is, or do we look at some improvements? That question doesn't necessarily have to be answered today. Just like when the library is being redone and we said, hey, before we go into the park, let's do a separate park planning process. I could envision that if we are going to do improvements to the memorial, the need to really spend some time and give that the attention that it deserves. But right now, we want to get some feedback on what does the general public want to see. We have been talking with the veterans and we will continue that. In fact, I just got an email from one of them this morning, and I'm going to make sure that they all have access to the same surveys that you all have. Also, we've been dropping off postcards and flyers at the lodge here in town, or the post here in town.
Post, yeah.
Thank you.
We also have a question through Zoom. So it says, it's a comment and a question. I'm grateful for the work being done. I appreciate the consideration being given to all ages and abilities. Regarding the log play space, what surface will be around the logs?
Natural, right now, it's be like natural native vegetation.
Okay. And perhaps some engineered wood fiber.
Oh, that would be the surface of the trail itself. So the trail itself would be engineered wood fiber, and then the landscape around it would be natural.
I'm sorry, trail surface would be what?
Engineered wood fiber, wood
Oh,
chips.
engineered wood fiber.
Yep. So the wood chips that you see in playgrounds, those are not the same ones that you go buy at Home Depot. They are specially shaped. They get dried, they get tumbled, and they remove all the sharp edges. They're a specific size and specification. And that's to ensure that kids don't get like a spear in the eye or fall on it. So it's not hazardous. It's also designed, right, to ensure that it's going to have the proper compression for falls. Jennifer, do you want to talk a little bit about the surfacing in the other design with playgrounds while we're talking about surfacing?
It's the same.
It's the same. Okay.
So it would be engineered wood fiber as well in the playground area.
Yep. And so a couple of things I do want to mention about playground safety surfacing. They are all a little bit different. They are all designed to take care of falls from height. 80% of injuries, actually it's probably like 78, 79% of all injuries on playgrounds happen from falls. Engineered wood fiber is the cheapest. It is also the least accessible. While it does meet ADA standards because it is barrier free, somebody with a walker or a cane or other mobility challenges will have a hard time getting across 12 inches of engineered wood fiber, whereas the poured in place rubber or the rubber tiles, much more expensive or engineered turf. Those are much more expensive, but require less maintenance over time. So the difference is like $3 a square foot for engineered wood fiber versus like $10.
No, like $20.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it can be as high as 50 for the poured in place rubberized. So it's looking at like, what's your budget up front? And then, long-term budget as well.
So there's a follow-up comment to that question, and it says, there needs to be a surface around the logs that allows the kids to play year-round without getting muddy.
Okay, thank you.
And did you have a comment or a question?
The concrete walkways are probably the width of the concrete walkways, is it 4 foot, 6 foot?
So the current walkway is 4 feet, which is this existing, but then this walkway is 6 feet.
6 feet.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about how that relates to ADA accessibility?
So ADA accessibility, typically 4 feet is a standard, but we typically like to do over 4 feet because if you have a wheelchair and you have somebody on the other side of the wheelchair or like somebody walking opposite direction, then you have more space to maneuver. So that's why we went wider with these trails.
So 2 wheelchairs could get by and the 6.
The 2 wheelchairs could get by with a tight squeeze.
Yeah, it'd be pretty tight on 6 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions?
One thing for the chat person that's talking about you want to go to the one slide back.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is what we have seen or what we have done in the past is like we'll use some pea gravel or other stones and stuff that like kids can play in there, and then like we'll plant within those. So then that could help with muddy area.
Hope that helps, Stephen.
Okay, if there are no other questions, we do have another presentation for you tonight. Do you want to?
Yeah, why don't we give everyone 5 or 10 minutes to actually do the survey while everything's fresh in your mind?
Okay, that works.
Great.
And then we can come back and tell us different.
I better get it.
There's more comments.
There's more. It's all good. Oh, yeah. So for those on Zoom, if you didn't hear, we're going to take a 5-minute break and we will return momentarily for the second part of the presentation.
Knock out this presentation pretty quickly. We'll have time afterwards. You can continue filling out your survey, and I'm sure that everyone would be willing to give the presentation again to refresh your memory from all that you've lost while I talk to you about something else. So my name is Kathy Heisey. I'm the council president, and I'm here to talk to you about the future of Milwaukee City Parks. I am here, ordinarily I would be here with a community member as well, but this turns out to be a really busy night, so you just get me. So I apologize for the fact that you have to listen to me instead of multiple voices on this. So go ahead and change the slide. So last year, the city adopted two overarching goals. We usually have 3 city council goals, and we use those to focus our efforts as a city. And it's really aimed at giving everyone in the community the best services and providing the best possible quality of life. And having that focus really helps us. So slide. I thought I was behind. Okay, good. So 2 of those standing goals have been climate change and resilience. We've been working on that one for almost 6 years now. And then equity, justice, and inclusion, we added almost 2 years ago. And just in the beginning of September, we added a 3rd goal, which was improving Milwaukee's park system and services. And that includes elements that will help us not just sustain and improve our quality of life, but also accomplish those other 2 goals at the same time, because our parks are such a gathering place. They have both climate impacts and they have equity, ways that we can improve equity in our community. So,
Slide.
Yes, please. This is the first time I've had someone else driving like this.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a little jumpy. So while we're working on improving our city parks, that will give us a chance to combat climate change, further our urban forestry initiatives by planting more trees and increasing open space. And I'm realizing that I am still a slide behind. One more time. Okay, there we go. So, for example, 1 acre of trees absorbs the carbon dioxide produced by driving a car 11,000 miles. We were just talking about the parks here, Scott Park, and how much we love having the trees there. A lot of folks in the community love having trees everywhere, and the parks are an especially important place for us to enjoy our urban forest. And our urban forest helps escalate our efforts around carbon sequestration. Trees capture a lot of carbon long-term. And in addition to making our town more attractive and creating a smaller carbon footprint and having green space, we get all of these benefits too. And we also see that parks increase equitable access to green spaces. We have 1,500, new units of housing coming into the downtown, sort of the urban core of Milwaukee over the next 3 years. The majority of those are in apartments. And so those folks are really going to need parks in order to be able to enjoy their green spaces. They're not going to have backyards. They're not going to have front yards. So if we want to make sure that we're ensuring that we have that access to nature, those community gathering spaces that we all learned were so important during the pandemic, we need to keep up with our parks. Slide. We know that having places to be outside and having access to open areas and recreation means that people exercise more, and that makes us healthier. And it makes us mentally healthier too. Next slide. And we also know, like I just said, parks strengthen our community's ties. If you were at the event in May that we had out here, it was amazing. It was the first time I felt like Milwaukie had the opportunity to just see each other in person. And it was so fun and just really revitalizing and energizing. So that's the kind of experience that our parks can really create the opportunity to have. And it brings diverse populations together, and it helps us as we're doing planning and building with affordable housing. And as I already mentioned, all of those multifamily units that are coming in. Next slide. So those are our goals. Unfortunately, we don't control our own funding sources when it comes to our parks. We've been a member of NCPRD, North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District, which is the little logo you see on a lot of the signs for our parks around town, since 1990. And each homeowner and basically any property owner in the district pays a tax that's specifically for parks construction and maintenance. And that should help pay for increased green spaces in Milwaukie and the other places that the district is serving. But it's been a challenge to get that to happen more recently. There we go. While it falls to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners to control our funding, as we keep saying on the slide, we don't even have a parks department here in Milwaukie. That hasn't stopped the city from doing everything that we can to make sure that we have parks and green spaces and are maximizing our recreation opportunities here. Slide. So we've still continued to work on parks as a council and as city staff because we know how critical they are to this community. And we've been doing that by directing funds specifically to acquiring land to build new parks. We've been doing park design. You're all part of one right now. And we've also been paying for construction. We've also made sure that we continue to own the park land inside Milwaukie. We own the ground that our parks are on. And that makes us different from the parks in Happy Valley. You may remember a few years ago, they chose to leave the Parks District. And it makes us different from the unincorporated areas of the Parks District. We've gone out of our way to get regional, state, and federal grants that maximize the city dollars that we put towards our parks work here in the city. So we've really had a very strong commitment as a city, even though we don't have that parks department, even though we don't control our funding, we've still managed to really deliver a lot of the work that needs to be done to keep our parks going. Slide. And really, without any involvement from the county and the Board of Commissioners, we've acquired and built many of our beloved local parks, including Balfour Park, Bowman Gray Park, Scott Park, Homewood, Ball Michelle, Spring Park, Phase 1 and 2 of Milwaukie Bay Park, the Kronberg Multi-Use Path, which is the path that's over there on the far side of the post office and the food carts. And those are projects that we as a city have gotten done that were above, beyond, and outside of the county bureaucracy. And it's work we've done because we've seen the opportunity and we've heard from the community that it was really important for us to do those projects. Slide. So when I say this, I want to be really clear that this is about the County Board of Commissioners. This is not about NCPRD staff. They are terrific. We have strong working relationships with the staff. We appreciate everything they do with the resources they have. That said, we as a city are looking at the situation we're in and asking, is this doing the best job that we can for parks? This awkward relationship we have between the county and the city. And that's a conversation I'm hoping to have with you all, and over the next month, we'll continue to have opportunities to engage around this. We feel like in the city, it gives us a chance because we're all right here. The 16 parks are the 16 parks that we have, that we take care of. And so that's our focus. It's not the whole Parks District. It's really what's here. We know our community. So it gives us an opportunity to be more in line with what our community needs and what it wants and what they'd prefer to see being built. We can be more responsive, we can move faster, we can get better input because we know how to get input from our community. It's something that the city does all the time. And as I just said, we've built a bunch of parks already, and we are concerned about continuing to keep that pace going as we have this influx of new units and an increase in growth in the community. And that's the same with really recreation programming. We've been doing community events. You all know the umbrella parade, you know, the solstice event. We know about Arbor Day is coming up. If you aren't going, you really should because it's got a terrific program. You might have been at Carefree Sunday in August. So we do events really well. We can do recreation programming. And we can do it in a way that is really community focused and can help us build and serve the different parts of our community better. Slide. So I'm going to have to change this so I don't have to do this. With City Council directing parks funding, we think we can cut out a whole level of bureaucracy that right now is preventing us from moving quickly and progressively. I don't know if you've been following the saga of Milwaukie Bay Park. Some of the Gary can tell you all about it. His family's been very involved in that for a long time now. Some of the meetings that we had around planning that took place here. They took place over next door. It is a project that's been going for years, and it's been really challenging to complete because we just can't seem to get alignment out of and commitment out of the county that we need to get the funding to build that park out. So If we have opportunities to get input directly from the community to decision makers, we can be singularly focused and more responsive to what Milwaukie really wants instead of having things getting bogged down in these political disputes. And with our community in charge, we can maximize and multiply our local funding opportunities, make sure we're getting a really effective use of our resources. Milwaukie has an amazing track record on that. We go for grants, we leverage dollars very effectively. For a city our size, we land a lot of outside money. And we can engage all of you in that process rather than hoping that the Board of County Commissioners will do what we want them to do in the end. And I'm excited about just the opportunity that this would bring to our community to have conversations that I think are fun and joyful. I do a lot of community engagement as a city councilor, and the conversations I have around parks are the most fun. And people are the most engaged. They're also the hardest in some ways because people really care about their parks. And I feel like after the pandemic and being so isolated for years, just having a joyful opportunity for us to all build something together is a real opportunity. So, slide. What happens next? We will be holding so many public forums to talk about this. We'll be at NDA meetings, your neighborhood district association meetings. We're hoping to be at PTA meetings. I think we're probably going to be at a Rotary Club meeting. If there's some other community group that you think we should present to, please let me know. We will get someone there. You can look for some town hall opportunities sometime in mid-November, I think. And we're really looking to have the conversation. I've told you what council thinks. We want to know what you think. And we want to know what your questions are. We are considering placing a small levy on the ballot in the spring of 2023. And that would be an opportunity for the community to decide for themselves if this is something we want. What that would most likely look like is right now, there's already 54 cents on $1,000 of assessed property value that each property owner in Milwaukie pays to NCPRD. What this levy would be an opportunity to, instead of sending 54 cents per thousand assessed value to NCPRD, you would send it to the city. So we're not at this time looking at something that would cost property owners more. We're not going to make any unilateral decisions. We are just trying to share the facts with you, and we really want voters in the end to decide if locally controlled, self-imposed temporary funding source is the best interest of the city. And as we're moving forward, we're going to incorporate what we hear back and think about potential funding sources and talk about what a master plan for a parks district, a parks department in Milwaukie would look like. And no matter what happens, we're going to keep working to provide the best parks and recreation service that we can in the city. That's what I got. Yeah.
So 5-year levy, is that correct?
Yeah.
And after 5 years, would it have to be voted on to increase that?
It would be, so, and it's hard to explain in the context of a presentation, but in a parks district or in any sort of special district, the rate is set permanently. You can vote to change it, but you don't have to vote to change it. If we move to a levy, that is something that the voters have to approve every 5 years. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you can change what that levy amount is, but it's every 5 years that you do that. Yeah.
Me?
Yes, you.
Okay. I use Milwaukie Community Center a lot. And
Yeah.
It's kind of an NCPRD,
Mm-hmm.
Milwaukie, City of Milwaukie, it's kind of a weird thing. And I would love to see it go back to the city.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that you don't have all the answers right now. You're still just talking about it.
I can make things up real fast.
So I'm wondering, would we then not pay taxes to NCPRD and instead pay to Milwaukie? Exactly. Okay, good.
That's the gist of it. Yeah. Yeah. We do not want to create a circumstance where there is double taxation of any sort. That's not the idea. And that building is owned by the city. So it's something.
Park.
And so is the park, right? So that's just something we would have to negotiate with NCPRD, is whether or not they wanted to keep running the programs out of there, like Meals on Wheels and other services that they provide, or if they'd want the city to take that.
That's the problem, the
Yeah.
foundation there has nothing to do with NCPRD.
Right.
And they raise all the money, and they raise a lot of money, especially for Meals on Wheels.
Yeah.
And NCPRD occasionally takes money out of it.
Hmm.
That's
awkward. Yeah.
And I could go on, but so I would love to see it go on.
Yeah, okay, well, thank you.
But they want to go to other parks, and there's no entry fee, but like the
No.
Swimming pool.
Right.
They, because we're out of district, if you go out of district, would the fees be higher?
That's also in the category of things that we would negotiate with NCPRD. And when I say that, we have things that NCPRD wants, and NCPRD has things that we want. So there's,
They have some really nice parks all over the
Yeah.
place. And I enjoy
Yeah.
those little parks, so I kind of think of this all more as Clackamas County. And they do a good job of maintaining, well, I have seen. Maintaining. I'm not saying capital improvements, but they've done a good job of maintaining.
Well, what we've learned in the process of talking about parks and exploring more around this is that we have heard concerns about maintenance. And we've learned that there's actually about $940,000 of deferred maintenance on our parks in Milwaukie alone. And a lot of that is playground structures that are really needing to be replaced for safety purposes, and other equipment that is just at the end of its life. So we had a presentation at City Council meeting on Tuesday of this week where we talked about, what would it look like if Milwaukie had its own parks department, and what would that budget be? And in that budget, there is a line item in there that is to start chipping away at that deferred maintenance, and to hire more staff, and to make sure that we can maintain at or better than maintenance for our current parks.
Same amount of money.
Yeah.
And then to see where they want more, because it is hard to keep up on that.
Right.
We have we do have a question through Zoom, but okay. So this one is, can you speak to the allocation of the system development charges placed on new construction? Seems like the county is not keeping up with green space standards in the city with a growing population.
Yeah, and that's a great question. If we became our own parks department, if we took parks back into the city, we would set our own SDC rates in the city, and there's a whole process for that. We do system development charge. So a system development charge is a one-time fee that is paid whenever you build something effectively. So you're paying for, there's going to be more people associated with this building is kind of the assumption. So you would need more parks, you need more sewer, you need more stormwater, you probably need some sidewalks out front. So that's what system development charges generally pay for. So if we started our own parks department, we would have to figure out what the appropriate amount was for the city. And SDCs are one of the reasons that we're having this conversation with the community right now, because we've seen our SDC income skyrocket because of those 1,500 units that are coming in that we know about. So we have $3 million plus that are coming in because of what's happening in Milwaukie. And NCPRD right now is having a conversation about being able to use system development charge money anywhere in the Parks District, instead of it being required to be spent where it's generated.
In Milwaukee.
And that's very troubling to us as we are getting so much more density. The possibility that those parks would be built far away is very troubling.
Thanks for your question.
I was curious, what are the risks of having our own parks department? And also, then what would be the benefits of staying with NCPRD?
Yeah, that's a good question. The risks if you move to having a levy every 5 years, I grew up in Battleground, Washington, and I've seen this happen there. Schools have a levy that's every 5 years that pays for everything in the school. Voters might not approve it, and then you don't have funding. So that could happen in a way that it can't currently happen because the district has that permanent rate. I see that as probably the biggest risk. I think it's pretty unlikely. Milwaukie really loves its parks. So unless a future council did something totally bonkers and said, we're going to raise the rate to $10 per 1,000 or something, I don't see that happening.
So is there someone who knows finances, cost analysis, for hiring more people, buying equipment, the whole bit, the PERS, someone know how to do that?
Yes, and that was the presentation that we had on Tuesday in our work session. And I'm not going to pretend that I remember all of those.
Somebody is doing that.
Someone has already done that analysis. Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a way to view the presentation from Tuesday if you missed it?
Yes, if you don't know, we have the best YouTube channel on YouTube for the city of Milwaukie. You can see every meeting that we have ever had. So 3 a.m. rolls around.
Oh, yeah.
We can get you to 3:10. But that meeting was the Tuesday meeting, just this past Tuesday. What was that? The 3rd of October? 4th of October. Thank you. 4th of October during the work session. So that would be a good place to look. And there's a Cliff Notes version too, if you just want to read the minutes. So those were the risks. And then you also asked about, what was the other half of the question?
What are the benefits
Of staying.
There must be something.
They're experienced.
Yeah, I mean, it means that while we have scoped out everything around having our own parks department, it means we don't have to do the work. And that is a lot of work. It means not having to do a master planning process. And I see those as, that's a benefit as well as a loss, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but doing a master planning process gives us a chance to have a community conversation around all of our parks and what do we want to see. And that master planning process hasn't been happening under NCPRD. So it's a bit of a back and forth. Allie's got some benefits.
Speak a little bit to that. I'm the vice chair of the Parks and Rec Board, and so a lot of, and Gary is on the board with me as well, but a lot of in our meetings.
Do you mind actually coming up to the front?
Oh,
I'm so sorry. So our folks.
Didn't mean to take
No, please.
step in.
I think they're friendly online.
Okay. But one of the things, we get an update every month at every single one of our Parks and Rec meeting. There's a liaison and she's really wonderful. And I really can't reiterate more about how wonderful the people are.
Yeah.
And so a lot of this conversation about leaving NCPRD has a lot more to do with just localized decision making. But some of the benefits about staying with NCPRD is that they already have a Parks and Rec department, right? They've already got the manpower. They have their staff. They know the parks. They've been doing this since 1990. So they already have the knowledge. They have the equipment. They are the ones that maintain it. So that kind of takes a little bit off of our city council's board, like their plate. So there's a lot of great things that we've experienced and have come out of partnering with NCPRD over the years. But I think the question right now is just what direction do we want Milwaukie to move forward in? Where do we want, because we are a growing city and we are revisiting a lot of our parks. We have 3 parks that we're working on right now, which is a really wonderful opportunity, not to mention all the hard work that we've been doing in fundraising for Milwaukie Bay Park. So the question is really, we have had a good relationship. We could continue on and staying in this partnership, which would really just maintain the status quo. And really one of the biggest challenges about staying is that we don't get to control where our funding goes. And every time we want to do something with our parks, we have to go through this entire process of getting like approval. We have to go through this agency to get approval through that agency. And so while there are really great benefits and we've experienced that and enjoyed that, this is a conversation about, okay, we've had that experience. We've had time to kind of sit and enjoy our parks. Now we have this really great opportunity of funding and creating and developing, updating. So what do we want to do now?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where the
Yes.
conversation.
Yeah,
Is that about
yeah.
accurate? Okay.
No, I think it is. And I think the only thing I would add is part of what comes up with that lack of local control is, I don't know how many times people have said to me, why don't we have a skate park in the city of Milwaukee? We need a skate park. And NCPRD is very unlikely to go down that road because it's a big planning process. It's very local in its service. Figuring out where to put one is a real challenge for them. Yeah. Okay, I was sneak away, Ally. Thank
We
you.
have one more question or comment here.
Well, I was just going to comment on.
Well, let me finish
Okay.
my thought.
Sorry.
real quick. No, that's okay. So if we have parks under our control, then we can say, okay, if this is important to you, Milwaukee, then we can put something on the ballot as a bond measure to say, this is what it will cost. Are you willing to pay this to get a skate park built? Yes or no? So go ahead, Gary.
I was just going to comment on another slide you had earlier showing the list of all the parks.
Yeah.
And stop that one. Yes, thank you. This one lists, as she mentioned, we own all our parks. So we own all these. And when we did this one here a few years back, there was a predecessor to the Park and Rec Board that was dealing with Milwaukie Bay Park. It was called the Riverfront Board. Then after the Riverfront Board, there became the Riverfront Task Force. Then in 2016, the task force was dropped. I was vice chair of that at the time. And when it dropped, I was the only one that voted against dropping it because we weren't done. So it dropped and it was phased out by the city and everything was taken over by the Park and Rec Board in Milwaukee of what we were working on for Milwaukie Bay Park. And as you see here, phase 1 and 2, that was done under the Riverfront Task Force and the Riverfront Board. They were done. We got all our own funding from other resources and through the city for it. And so we did it. But now we're working on phase 3, the biggest part of it. And we have to go to a third party, make a decision of whether it happens. So that's.
Okay.
And Gary is tired of waiting.
What does he have North Platte Parks? North Platte Park. Yeah.
We couldn't find
that by ourselves.
We couldn't find the paperwork on it. We think it was built by itself, but we needed to talk to Pat Duval and we haven't heard from her.
Oh, okay. Well, I learned a lot about it from Joe Bernard, who was a big part of it.
Okay, yeah.
And also from guys who were in the Boy Scouts at that time because the Boy Scouts put in all the trees.
If you can track down we just need the proof that it actually transpired. And Pat's the one who knows where all those records are. So that's why we don't have it on the list, is we couldn't parse out exactly which pieces. Like we know that the ball fields were built by NCPRD. Everything else, we're just not sure. Was the okay?
Yeah, most of the people are dead. Yeah, not the Boy Scouts.
Good. Find me some Boy Scouts.
Contact Joe Bernard.
Yeah, I'll give Jim a call. That's a good idea.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Now you all are experts on parks in Milwaukee. I expect to see you at our next council meeting. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any more questions about the survey and your original intentions for being here about Scott Park, we still have folks on hand who are happy to continue that conversation with you. And I'll stop yelling at you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.